front end conversion, Mark II, on the USDM Cressida. And we have learned a lot in a sense of everything on the US spec is all mounted using brackets compared to the Mark II front end where everything is actually mounted directly onto the radiator support. So what we're going to do is we're just going to show you guys exactly kind of how we went about it, the difficulty. All right, so as you guys see, we already marked exactly where we're going to cut this fender. We have the front half, the Mark II fender right here. And if I put it up to the US one, you can see exactly how significantly different that is. Okay, so now I know you're probably wondering, okay, why don't we just cut the bucket out and then weld that in place on the US front end? Well, as I said before, everything on the US spec is all bracket mounted. So, and then everything here is directly radiator support mounted. So if we were to just put the bucket here, we'll run into two issues. One being that we're gonna have to make brackets for everything and somehow get everything to fit, but everything is made to fit the bumper, and the bumper isn't gonna go all the way in because now we've pushed everything out, and the bumper itself isn't gonna sit flush with this line, and it's gonna sit right here. Hopefully that makes sense, but that would just require a whole lot of modifying this, modifying the brackets there. So what we want to do is keep it as close to the original Mark II as possible. So that's why what we're going to do, and whoever sent this front half obviously knew what they were doing and knew what we needed for this project. So if you guys are going to do this, highly recommend either getting the fender or at least getting the front half. So again, we're going to weld it on here, and then everything is going to be mounted directly onto the radiator support like it should be. We're still probably going to have some issues like headlight wise, but for the most part we should be good. So as I was saying, on the radiator support, everything is bracket mounted. So the US headlights all go right here and everything is pushed out. But the cool thing is this is all still stamped from Toyota, Japan. And as you can see right here, we have a few dimples that probably go unnoticed, but this part goes under the headlight. And what's cool is you can see it's still stamped out there, so we still have a guide. So it's not like we're shooting in the dark and just hoping to get the actual mounting point. So they're still there, but we have to tap them out, okay, and then get these going there. Okay, and now we come to the passenger side, and this is where we have a problem because again, this is built with the US spec in mind, so we're not worried about any of the dimples here before this bracket itself. So they have the AC line, all this stuff, and then see, here's one of the dimples right there, bam. But then this one, the two are right here, and it's like, oh crap, okay, what are we going to do here? So now we'll have to modify the bracket itself to go around the AC lines, just to get it to sit right. But again, this is just showing that everything is still there and we can still utilize the rad support. It's just these things that usually would go unnoticed, now we're starting to see, okay. And if we were to actually use, the US fender, now it pushes this out, okay? And keep in mind, the bumper has to sit, this sits behind the bumper. So the bumper can't go all the way in, which then brings me back to the problem of it's never going to sit flush on the sides unless we elongate the bumper, which we are not going to do that. So that's why everything needs to sit in. It can't sit out right here. You can't modify, make brackets. You could, but you're going to create more work. It's just better to go about pushing everything back in. Now we've cut our fender, we've ground down. Like I always tell you guys, grind the surface, prep your surface properly, because if you don't, you're gonna have a bad time. So, we ground down, we made sure to leave a little more on this fender, just so now we can put this one over, then we'll mark it again, and then we'll give ourselves a nice clean cut so everything butts up together. But as you can see, arch will need to be modified a little bit, and you can see exactly how close it is to the radiator support. All right, so we got the fender on, corner light's now on, right? Show them the corner light. So corner light's on. And right now, what we're going to do is we're going to start getting the headlight mocked up. So we're able to get this little bottom piece in that goes under the headlight. And the issue we're going to have, like, you know, as stated before, the radiator support sits so far up. Everything on the USDM sits so far up that it's going to be a very tight fitment for the headlight. So now we're going to get the headlight, dry fit it, see exactly what needs to be notched out or cut so we can, you know, compensate for what's needed. So here's the headlight itself. And as you can tell already, the adjuster for the lens, this piece right here, we're going to have to notch a hole somewhere so that we can get it to sit in, and then see exactly what other issue we're going to have, because where the light itself is going to go, it's going to be really tight. So again, there's just a lot of little things that, you know, have to be changed when doing this. The headlight now sits so close to the support, we had to cut behind. As you can see, the cut that we made for the headlight, so we're able to actually access the bulb and, you know, get that all wired up. And again, coming back to the front over here, you can see we were still able to utilize stock mounting points. Then on this one right here, we had to notch it for the AC line right there. So we were able to still keep those in place. The headlight itself ties into the corners. So once you get the corner pretty much wrapped up and secured with a fender, the headlight just locks into place into here. And then the cool thing about this grill is the grill actually locks in place onto the headlight itself. So once you secure the headlight, now the grill's not going anywhere. You know, it has just a couple mounting points, you know, everywhere there. So now the issue that we're going to run into is pretty much the hood. As you can see, the hood's a lot longer than the Mark II front. It's actually 4 inches longer. So we're gonna have to put everything back. And you see, headlight, grill comes out, and the hood itself, the OEM hood, is supposed to actually contour all these different lines here. And with the US front end, straight shot, pretty much. You have a bit of a curve. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and modify the hood. Using the hood here, I'll try and draw something out, because when it came to processing of the hood, it was a lot more difficult than anticipated. So in the beginning of the video, I know I say, okay, just, you know, it's a pretty straightforward process, and maybe just a little bit of cutting and welding is all you need to know. But it does have some kind of fabricating, like, you know, just kind of troubleshooting and seeing exactly how you would go about things. So I'm going to explain what I did. If you guys ever want to attempt this with a hood, if not, then I would just suggest get the hood. It's going to be a lot easier, and even for Jeff and Maria, I suggest that they still get that hood as well. So anyways, okay, let's go over here. So I'm going to try and draw it. So Mark II front end, right? You have a headlight, then the grill that comes out like so. And then it goes back into the headlights, and then the corners, okay? So the hood is literally supposed to mirror that. So the hood pretty much comes up, and then on the actual Mark II hood, it comes around like so. It does the exact same thing like the grill and the lights, but it has a chrome piece that kind of, you know, mirrors out there, and then it mirrors the chrome that's, you know, on the corners. Anyways, for the USDM one, you know, so that's, say, Mark II. And then for the USDM, the MX-73, any of you guys know, that front end is pretty straightforward. That's it. Got your headlights, the grill, bam, done. Right? And then, of course, you know, the hood just goes right here. So as you can see already, there's a lot of contouring. Now, another problem is that this one, you know, turd. So the thing about this one is actually 4.5 inches longer than the Mark II hood. So now you have another issue where, you know, you have, let's say here's the Mark II front end, right? And then the grill kind of protrudes out. This is signifying like headlight. You have the corner light. Bam. Okay, something like that. So the USDM hood did this guy, right? Came out, kind of gave us this whole look. Okay, fender, whatever, bumper. Anyways, so what ended up happening here is everyone's just like, oh, well, just shorten it up. Bam, that's it. Make a cut there. It's not that easy, because what happens is you have the USDM hood that's coming out, but the Mark II, the lights and everything, there was a gap here. So that gap is a different pitch. So now you have to actually somehow pull the hood together so that it has the same pitch. So right here, what I did, you know, to actually bring the skin together, because as you see, it comes out, and the, you know, the Mark II front end actually sat, you know, about where the pen's at, right there. It sat farther down. So we needed to bring this side down here. So what I ended up doing was I ended up cutting almost like a V-notch. So I cut that pretty far back, and then when I notched it, you're able to take the skin, it's separated from the bottom skeleton, and then you're able to actually compress it down because you took out this big chunk right here. And then once you did that, then you're able to tack it, tack, put some tacks, get it down, and then you squeeze it down. Okay, so then what we ended up doing was we measured exactly about where each corner light met. So again, remember, you know, the front end, it curves for the grill, right? But what we did was we took measurements from this side and this side of the corner lights, and then we went straight across. Okay, so then what we did is on the hood, we cut straight from corner light to corner light. So now it's even. But even though we did that, right, let's say we did this guy, but now we have this gappage for, you know, the grill itself and a little bit of the headlights. So it's like, okay, well, how are we going to do that? So then, you know, we did that straight cut, but then we also cut this lip. So you see the USDM one has a little ridge. So we pretty much cut straight across here as well, all the way. Luckily it's dusty, so it gives us a bit of a guide. So we cut this. So we cut just the nose off, okay? But then we also cut, let's say on the Mark II, from corner light, okay? There. So then this was all gone, okay? We don't need any of this. But we kept this front lit. But now this also matched with a Mark II. And we had already pinched the sides, so now we have the angle that we need. So then what we did with the front is we actually cut it in 3 different sections. So we cut right here. So this was one section. We cut right here. This was another section. Okay, and then you had your grill. So now if I get away, you can kind of see 1, 2, 3. And so what we did, just like here, is we kind of, you know, we welded on the first half on the side here, then we welded on the second half over here. Okay, this is right there, that right here, then we have the center. But the grill, again, the grill does this into the sides. So now how are you going to do that? So then what we did for the front is we actually ended up, again, V-notch, okay? Then you get the metal and you're able to bend it in. So now your actual plate will look something more similar to that. And the V-notch will come together.
So your piece of metal will then look like this. And then guess what? That gets welded on. So then that'll take form of the grill. Okay, and then of course you got to do some filling, metal filling, or if you want to try and weld it in. Yeah. But hopefully this helps you guys. And honestly, at the end of the day, the best solution is always going to be to get the OEM hood. Just try and source the stock hood, get the whole front end if you can. Hood, fenders, grill, corner lights, even the valance. That's one thing I think a lot of people forget, but the valance as well. You know, all that is going to help you, and it's going to make your conversion that much easier. But for the most part, it came out okay. And you know, we'll post some rolling shots of it, and some pictures will be on IG. And again, you know, if you guys ever have any questions, you want to attempt something like this, by all means, we encourage you to.